Over 1,429 of these Boko Haram terrorists have been neutralized.
Neither relent nor be lenient with the criminal elements, President Buhari charges troops.
What is certain is that we must not allow the next pandemic to catch us unprepared.
The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 reviews 100 days of national response as health workers set to receive COVID-19 hazard allowance this week.
The war against bandits and kidnappers continues unabated. We don't negotiate with bandits.
And the federal government flags off distribution of agricultural import, optimistic that Nigeria will export locally processed rice next year. A warm welcome to the network news at 9 on the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. I am Kenneth Ima Abwodike. Reading with me tonight is Dotun Ogunyemi in Lagos. Thank you for joining us. We start off with security matters as President Muhammadu Buhari described as reassuring the giant strides being recorded by the Nigerian Army and the ongoing counterinsurgency operations, and urged the service to neither relent nor be lenient with the criminal element as efforts are intensified towards making Boko Haram a thing of the past. The president stated this while granting audience to the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, who for the first time made public the casualty figure on the side of the terrorists. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo brings us details.
For over 2 months, the Army Chief, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, had been in the front line with officers and soldiers committed to putting an end to the menace of Boko Haram and other criminal elements in the northeast. He is here to give President Muhammadu Buhari details on the military operations, achievements recorded so far, and the next plan of action.
The troops' morale is very high. While in the field there, some of them are even ready to stand between me and the bullet. They are ready to take the bullet for me. So I'm very much impressed and happy with my officers and soldiers. So far, over 1,429 of these Boko Haram terrorists have been neutralized, and we have arrested over 116 Boko Haram terrorist informants, their spies, and their couriers on logistics, and their coordinators in the villages, in towns, and even in the forests. Our intelligence corps, along with the Department of State Services, and of course our good friends, the civilian JTF, have worked very hard to see that this is achieved.
President Muhammadu Buhari described as fulfilling that efforts made so far in the renewed fight against terrorism and insurgency have paid off, and applauded the troops for exhibiting high sense of courage and patriotism.
As far as the operation in the Northeast, Mr. President is happy, highly elated, and this is an encouragement to me and the troops. And I urge them to maintain this high standard of operational capability, so that not only in the Northeast, other troops in the other areas are also will do the same. Just like what is happening in the Northwest. The troops are determined. We are giving them the necessary support. We are reinforcing the troops in the Northwest. We are also getting more equipment for them to operate with. The overall plan is to rid the whole of the Northwest, and of course, imagine threats that are coming up in the in other parts of the country, especially the North Central, and of course, South West, Southeast, and the South. So it's a comprehensive approach to tackle any insecurity that is emerging.
The Nigerian Army, Lieutenant General Buratai, however, said will continue to synergize with other services and security agencies in the task of securing Nigeria for effective service delivery. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And still talking security, as part of measures to foster more harmonious working relationship between the police and citizens in the enforcement of COVID-19 guidelines, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has unveiled operational guidelines and regulations for the Nigerian police and other law enforcement agencies at the force headquarters in Abuja. Francis Fum was there.
The increased reported cases of domestic violence, many say, are linked to the COVID-19 restrictions. Deepening respect for the right of citizens, as well as providing new set of policing tools for tackling domestic violence, rape, child molestation, and other gender-based incidents are now on the stream, courtesy of the Nigeria Police. The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, says the recent unfortunate developments prompted the introduction of these operational guidelines to coordinate and reshape the conduct of personnel and other law enforcement agencies in the lines of operations.
We had issues of group of people seizing the opportunity to commit one form of crime or the other. This handbook is also addressing such situations when it arises under the COVID-19 pandemic situation.
The IGP has also ordered strengthening of the Gender Desk Unit and the juvenile welfare centers across the country and the deployment of investigative assets to deal with gender-related offenses. In addition, the IGP equally directs the Force Provost Department, X-Squad, the Public Relations Department, the Complaint Response Unit, and the Public Complaint Bureau to carry out oversight roles of adequate evaluation and monitor officers to ensure compliance with the guidelines. In Abuja, Frank Sisfom, NTA News.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari, in line with the Constitution, has sent the nomination of Her Lordship, Justice Monica Dongban Mensem, Acting President, Court of Appeal, to the Senate for confirmation as President, Court of Appeal. Justice Dongban Mensem is a serving justice of the Court of Appeal and was recommended, as this is the practice, by the National Judicial Council for the nomination by the President. The House of Representatives Committee on Reformatory Institutions has expressed satisfaction with ongoing construction of the 3,000 capacity maximum custodial center in Abuja. Chairman of the committee, Alayo Edwin, gave the commendation after an oversight visit by committee members to the site in Karishi, outskirts of the FCT. Victor Azu reports.
More often than not, when a legislative committee visits a construction site, it is for oversight purposes, as it is in this case. The Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service is unavoidably absent, so the task of receiving the members falls on Deputy Controller General of Corrections in charge of human resources. He brings them up to speed on the project.
A total of 46 projects was awarded to indigenous companies after due process and due diligence was carried out on them. Thereafter, 5 additional projects were later awarded, thereby bringing the total number of projects awarded to 51.
The 3,000 capacity custodial center is beginning to take shape here in Abuja, and this is expected to be replicated in the 6 geopolitical zones of the Federation. When all of these are completed, they will represent the new face of the Nigerian Correctional Service. This explains the visit of the House Committee on Reformatory Institutions. With more than 4 billion naira already expended, the legislator's task is to assess if this main structure and other complementary ones represent value for money. After a rigorous tour of the project, they have this to say.
We are happy with what is on ground to make sure that they release their funds as when due.
And we also thank the authorities of correctional services for awarding it to our indigenous contractors.
This project, when completed in the 6 geopolitical zones of the Federation, will help decongest the overcrowded correctional facilities across the country. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
Last week, the social media was awash with stories that a new country is to be called Ambazonia, or UNO state, is to be created out of Nigeria and Cameroon. The story said 24 local government areas in Nigeria will be ceded to be part of the proposed country, and that it was part of the agreement reached between Nigeria and Cameroon in 2003. Now, the National Boundary Commission has come out to debunk that report, saying it is false and there is no iota of truth in the story. And so joining us live in the studio to talk more on the issue is Adamu Adaji, the Acting Director General of the National Boundary Commission. You're welcome to NTA Network News tonight.
Thank you.
Nigeria is setting 24 local government for the creation of Ambazonia, or UNO state. Now, what is that all about?
Well, that is one news item that was brought to the attention of the National Boundary Commission. And we want to say that that was a false alarm and a fake story. That was one fake story taken so far. There is no iota of truth in the statement. Nigeria and Cameroon at no time agreed to cede any part of their territories to form any new state to be called Ambazonia. So the story is false.
Totally false.
Totally false.
All right. After the ICJ ruling and the implementation, by the Nigerian-Cameroon Joint Commission, what else was there for both countries?
Well, after the ICJ ruling, the heads of the two states met under the auspices of the Secretary General of the United Nations, the late Kofi Annan, to map out strategies on how to implement the rulings of the ICJ. And it gave back to the back of the Cameroon-Nigerian Mixed Commission. It's a tripartite arrangement of Nigeria, Cameroon, under the auspices of the United Nations, to see to the full implementation of the rulings of the ICJ. And that is what we've been on since then, and we are almost concluding.
We'd like to know the present situation or position there. What are the countries doing? Because we also learned that, President Buhari and President Biya of Cameroon approved $6 million for boundary demarcation. So when is work expected to start there?
Our work has started. It
Already?
Yes, it started in earnest. Now, the two nations contributed the sums of $33 million each to the United Nations Trust Fund for the implementation of the ICJ rulings. And of course, we got some other donations from other well-wishers and some other friendly nations to support the exercise. So we have commenced, and the exercise is ongoing. We're almost concluding. We have finished some other aspects, like some communities that were affected by the ruling were handed over to Cameroon, and some were taken over by Nigeria since. And we've handed over Bakassi. We are at the point of demarcating the boundary. We have identified the number of pillars required. Okay. We require a total sum of about 3,000 pillars to be in place to define the entire stretch of the 2,000-kilometer length of the boundary. And we have made significant progress. We've in place about half of the numbers of pillars required. The remaining half, we are in the process of
doing it right now.
Doing them now.
So we should disregard anything from there.
In fact, it's false.
All right. Thank you.
And I want to tell Nigerians categorically that that is false, and that the Nigerian constitution has defined the territory of Nigeria.
Exactly.
And it cannot be, it's not subject to any amendment or adjustment or alteration.
Right. Okay.
So Nigerians should be rest assured that there's nothing like that. It's a false story and it's fake.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Savio Adamu Adaji, the Acting Director General of the National Boundary Commission. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari may put a temporary hold to the gazetting of the Executive Order 10, which he recently signed, giving autonomy to state legislature and the judiciary. Chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum and the Ekiti State Governor, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, after a meeting at the Presidential Villa in Abuja between some governors and the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, and the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, Governor Fayemi says after listening to their concerns about the constitutionality of the executive order at an earlier meeting, President Buhari agreed that gazetting of the order would be delayed. He says that the governors have also been consulting with the Conference of Speakers of State Legislatures in order to work out an amicable resolution of the matter. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that the Chief of Staff to the President, Ibrahim Gambari, hosted a meeting.
Support for the autonomy of the judiciary and the legislature. That's the position of the 36 governors of the Federation. What is at issue is the constitutionality of the modalities of what had been put in the executive order. And Mr. President was gracious enough to say, okay, given your concerns about that, we will delay the gazetting of the order and allow you and the Attorney General and the Honorable Minister for Finance, Planning and Budget to work out the modalities. And in any case, we have been meeting at our level with the Conference of Speakers.
We pause now for some messages. The news continues after this timeout. Stay tuned.
I wish to once again commend the frontline workers across the country who, on a daily basis, risk everything to ensure we win this fight. For those who got infected in the line of duty, rest assured that government will do all it takes to support you and your families during this exceedingly difficult period. I will also take this opportunity to assure you all that your safety, well-being, and welfare remains paramount to our government. I am using this opportunity to express our deepest condolences to the families of all Nigerians that have lost their loved ones as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is our collective loss, and we share your grief.
To do this with your stew, but not your data. Get more out of life with the new Airtel data plans. Dial *141# today. Data is life.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
The National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDDA, under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, exists to develop and regulate IT for sustainable national development in Nigeria, in line with the desire of the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration to diversify the Nigerian economy from natural resources to knowledge-based economy. NIDDA has reshaped the Nigerian economy by midwifing the production of homegrown IT consumables, providing avenues for job creation and wealth generation, increasing revenue generation for the country, boosting the capacity and competence of Nigerian workforce, streamlining cost and checking wastage in procurement processes, combating corruption and strengthening national security. Thanks to NIDDA, Nigeria now boasts of a vibrant IT sector with a knowledge-based economy to match. NIDDA, the prime catalyst for transforming Nigeria into a knowledge-based economy. For more information, please visit us at www.nidda.gov.ng or follow us on all our social media handles.
Is on your my camera.
existing Glow customers now enjoy up to 20% more data. Dial *777# to choose a plan. Glow Unlimited.
My neighbor Casey and I, we gel perfectly. We support the same club. Our taste in music, totally in sync. But there's one area where we differ. Casey loves his Peak filled milk because it is low in cholesterol. I, on the other hand, I love my Peak full cream milk because it is rich and creamy. So, choose your Peak today.
Peak. Reach for your peak.
Hey, tell them. They told me you are the best around here.
What can I do for you, sir?
I want my own very, very simple. I don't want any shine. If I see any shine.
Actually, I'd love some sequins on my skirt. And I don't like any frills.
I beg, I want frills on mine, but it must not be too tight.
Tight! That tight now, that is what I want. And the transition.
Oh, you know what? I want a gown.
Me too. I want to come with one.
You know what? GMS are with this. Did you capture all the information?
Of course not.
Actually.
Fantastic.
I give my customers what they love because everyone has their unique style. So why should they wear the same thing? Just like MTN for me, which gives unique data and recharge offers just the way you like it. Just dial *121# and turn up great offers every day.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
John, you can use our toilet now.
Ew! My mommy said I should always use a toilet that is cleaned with Hypo toilet cleaner. James will bite my bum bum.
John, what's the problem? Use Hypo toilet cleaner. Introducing the new and affordable Hypo toilet cleaner. Kills germs and deodorizes your toilet.
Hypo, hypo.
Welcome back. Nigeria is leveraging on the COVID-19 pandemic to improve the nation's healthcare system and infrastructure. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force, Boaz Mustapha, while reviewing the national response, says molecular laboratories have been increased from 2 to 30 within 100 days since the first index case was confirmed on February 27th this year. Mitare Ben reports.
For the Presidential Task Force, building the nation's capacity to respond to COVID-19 and other infectious diseases was part of the strategy that characterized 100 days of national response.
The number of laboratories in the COVID-19 network has increased from the bare minimum of 2 with which the Nigerian Center for Disease Control started with to 30. Over 80,000 tests have been conducted in the country. Over 13,000 health workers have been trained, increasing the human resource available for case management, and more personal protective equipment and ventilators have been procured and prepositioned across the country. The number of beds available for isolation and case management has increased from 3,000 beds to about 5,000 beds nationwide.
The Minister of Health and the Director General of the NCDC updated the nation on the outcome of investigations into the mysterious deaths in Kano, as well as the rising cases in Abia.
The verbal autopsy that we spoke of revealed that about 56% of the deaths had occurred at home, while 38 were in a hospital. The investigation suggests that 50 to 60% of the deaths may have been triggered by or due to COVID-19.
We know people in the Southeast travel a lot, so there was no reason why there wouldn't be more cases there, given the tendency to travel. So from the very beginning, we were always worried about insufficient data coming out from the Southeast. Initially, it was thought to be about testing, but we've improved the testing, access to testing capacity now.
Protocols are being fine-tuned ahead of the resumption of evacuation of Nigerians abroad.
The key part of the proposal is that there will be a need for Nigerians that are currently outside the country to undergo a PCR test for COVID-19 before they board. These tests need to be valid at least for 14 days. In other words, if the test is done beyond 14 days, then it will not be accepted.
Before the industry comes back, we would inform the public, we would sensitize the public what our intentions are and what to do and what we expect of you.
I'm happy to say that we have about 3.6 million individuals, households that are currently in the National Social Register.
The public is advised to disregard speculations on school resumption on social media, as no date has been fixed yet.
We want to be only able to open when it is safe to do so.
With the coronavirus pandemic far from over, state governments were urged to provide adequate security around isolation and treatment centers to avoid abscondment of patients. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
Let's go to the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives Committee on Public Accounts has engaged the Presidential Task Force.
Response activities.
We're still waiting for the different MDAs to do their activity plans, their work plans. They need to submit a procurement plan to us, and then they go ahead to do the procurement, which is why out of the 22 billion that has been released for the purpose of COVID, only 164 has been spent.
The PTF urged the lawmakers to further educate Nigerians on the need for them to come forward voluntarily for testing, stressing that non-pharmaceutical measures are necessary to contain the spread of the virus. The committee will, in subsequent sittings, hear from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, among others. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Now, New Zealand has officially declared itself potentially COVID-19 free with its last case discharged. Let's join Uche Ogochukwu for details of these and more on COVID-19 update around the world.
Africa Center for Disease Control dashboard shows the continent now has 189,434 cases of COVID-19, out of which 5,175 patients have died and 82,888 recovered. Nigeria recorded 260 new COVID-19 cases and 12 deaths in the last 24 hours. Data from the NCDC indicates Abia for the first time
of health after a meeting with the leadership of health workers unions in Abuja. Emmanuel Ayimiro brings us more.
The Memorandum of Understanding reached in April this year by the federal government with health workers to pay new hazard allowances to cushion the effects of COVID-19 is now being transmitted to a Memorandum of Action as government retained all COVID-19 hazard allowances for various categories of health workers. A development that brought smiles on the faces of health workers at this meeting.
The issues or rumors that is going to be reduced is no longer tenable. I mean, it's been clarified by the Honorable Minister of Labour that there is nothing like that and that we are going to be duly paid. In less than 2 weeks, certainly, we know a lot will make Bangam.
Both ministers of Labour and Health assured health workers that government will keep to its side of the bargain.
Hopeful that government will get some other funds to pay for June. Thereafter again, we'll look at
them, and they've been monitoring events, forecasting and responding to those developments. And so since then, a protocol was established in the National Institute that mirrors the advice of WHO and the Presidential Task Force.
Through a robust partnership with the Development Research and Project Center Abuja, NIPS has been able to carry out its mandate of providing strategic policy direction to government response on human capital development.
There is partnership for advocacy in child and family health at scale, PACFA, and we have worked so hard in contributing immensely to the health sector in this country.
As the Senior Executive Course 42 is halfway through, the nation is rest assured of homegrown response to our societal challenges. In Jos, Fani Bin Saleh, NTA News.
To other matters now, the federal government has declared Friday, June 12, 2020 as public holiday to mark this year's Democracy Day celebration. The Minister of Interior, Rauf Araboshala, who made the declaration on behalf of the federal government, congratulates all Nigerians at home and abroad for the entrenchment of democratic rule in the country. He commended the heroes of democracy for their dogged determination and sacrifice, which eventually birthed democratic governance in Nigeria. Meanwhile, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says as the federal government gradually opens up after the total lockdown to contain the spread of COVID-19, just like the rest of the world, with domestic flights due to begin by the end of June, it is also set to put in place a new protocol for safety and security for all. The minister said this in his address to the 63rd meeting of the UNWTO Commission for Africa. Anthony Fulton reports.
For us in Africa, after the pandemic, focusing on rural tourism will help speed up the recovery process in the travels and tourism sector.
The virtual meeting had African ministers of culture and tourism participating. The meeting focused on mitigating the negative impact of COVID-19 and how to rise above board and strengthening the sector in a post-COVID-19 era. It is in this line that Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed chronicled the Nigerian experience and how the Nigerian government is handling the situation. Lai Mohammed said, while there is no clear indication on how the world has changed, the ability to adapt and recover fast is a pointer to the resilience which the travel and tourism sector must leverage on now.
The sector is a driver of growth and economic prosperity, accounting for 1 in every 10 jobs globally. The employment opportunities provided by the sector benefit a wide variety of people, especially the low-skilled, the youth and women.
The minister enumerated palliatives put in place to cushion the impact of the disease on the entire populace, as well as policies put in place to aid businesses to grow.
This is because rural tourism employs more people in Africa. And here I'm talking about arts, crafts, culture and heritage. It is, however, imperative for the UNWTO to support Africa with a Marshall Plan of sorts and grants.
The federal government of Nigeria, the minister added, is not resting on its oars to ensure that Nigerians live well and stay safe. In their submission, Chairman of CAF, Ronald Chitotela, and the Secretary General of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, Zura Pololikashvili, enumerated the depth of the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism sector and called on member states to rise up to the challenge by putting in place necessary mechanisms that will propel an instant recovery of the sector after what has been lost within the lockdown and travel restrictions. The 63rd UNWTO Regional Commission for Africa meeting was scheduled to hold in Victoria, Seychelles in February this year before it was suspended as a preventive measure amidst COVID-19 outbreak. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Reactions have continued to trail rampant cases of rape across the country. The recent is the Ministry of Women Affairs demanding justice for victims of rape and murder. Momso Damian Dati has more.
Call it a harvest of rape, and you may be right. First, it was Vera Omozwa, a 100-level student of the University of Benin in Edo State. Then, 12-year-old girl in Jigawa State, said to be abused by 11 men. How about 18-year-old Barakad, who was raped and murdered in Ibadan? Or is it the other 12-year-old in Lagos, amongst many other cases?
May their souls and the souls of all the faithful departed rest in peace.
Such occurrences, the Ministry of Women Affairs say, must stop, hence the adoption of new measures to tackle the menace.
This is not acceptable. The rape of babies, toddlers, adolescent girls, and women of all ages has reached an embarrassing and alarming rate that needs urgent steps to be taken to properly address the hydra-headed pandemic that threatens our country's beautiful image in the Committee of Nations, and an urgent need to ask is now, and this is highly recommended.
Against this backdrop, the ministry is flagging of activities to mark the Day of the African Child with the theme Access a Child Justice System in Africa to drum home the message and measures of dealing with rape cases. In Abuja, Bomso Damien Ati, NT News.
Now, every year on the 8th of June, global attention is drawn to the wealth of marine and coastal biodiversity by commemorating World Ocean Day. For this year, 2020, the day highlights interlinkages of the problems humanity face and opportunities to harness ocean resources in a safe manner. Here is Onengia Fineface with more.
Covering approximately 71% of Earth's surface, the ocean is responsible for 97% of water on Earth and serves as the largest source of protein, with billions of people depending on its biodiversity for their livelihoods. World Oceans Day 2020 provides an opportunity for the global community to honor, help protect, and conserve the ocean.
When we say we want to conserve oceans, what we mean is that even the land that surrounds the ocean have to be conserved, because a lot of marine animals come out to come and breed at the beaches. So if you destroy their habitat, how do you protect them?
The theme, Innovations for a Sustainable Ocean, draws public attention to the impact of human actions on the ocean, develop a worldwide movement of citizens for the ocean, and mobilize people to manage marine and coastal biodiversity in a sustainable manner.
We need to ensure that our water bodies are not contaminated. Our water bodies do not become scenes of dangerous and destructive exploitation. They don't deny our fishers from getting the fish on which they survive.
Emphasis is placed on celebrating the beauties, wealth, and promise of the ocean. In Abuja, Onengie Fineface, NTA News.
Time now to join Dotun in Lagos for more reports.
Thank you, Kenna. The ocean produces 70% of the Earth's oxygen. It also has rich resources that are vital to man and plays a crucial role in public health, including the treatment of specific ailment. In spite of these benefits, human activities detrimental to the ocean and the marine ecosystem are increasing by the day. Environment correspondent Jennifer Igwe reports.
The relationship between ocean and man transcends generations and will continue. Organisms in the depth of the ocean have and are still contributing to biomedical science, biotechnology, and in the treatment of diseases. Even the remdesivir, an antibacterial being tested for the treatment of COVID-19, is derived from sea sponge. The ocean is also the lung of the earth.
There are some tiny organisms called phytoplankton in the waters. And this, because the oceans is about 2/3 of the earth's surface. And this phytoplankton are spread all over, producing oxygen. And this oxygen is a resource to which we depend on.
In spite of the benefits oceans offer, man-made activities detrimental to the marine ecosystem is on the increase.
To why it is said that by 2020 we have more plastics in our ocean than fishes. We have to bring up innovative ways so that also we'll be able to increase our fishes in our ocean.
Change our mindset towards single-use plastic. Now, we have a lot of beaches in Nigeria and most of them are riddled with a lot of plastic. And that's because people don't dispose their waste properly and people don't recycle their.
Now, apart from the 2020 Ocean Day slogan, the theme is also pertinent. It is Innovation for Sustainable Ocean, and it is aimed at drawing attention to new methods, ideas, products and services that can help us better harness ocean resources. In Lagos, Jennifer Igwe, NTA News.
And away from the ocean, cargo operations through rail have commenced at the Apapa Seaport in Lagos. This is sequel to the signing of standards of operation procedure by key and major players. Michael Olaleye reports.
Endless queue of trucks scrambling to gain access into their Papa ports. It is a necessary hurdle that must be crossed unharmed, but businesses are feeling the huge losses with yard occupancy growing on a daily basis. The advocacy that a multimodal system of transportation could be the answer to this challenge informed the reactivation of the rail system of transportation at the seaports by the federal government. This service was in existence but put on hold for operational reasons.
We only expect this to get better. Ask me why. Because the standard gauge is just at the other side. What we're trying to do today is what? Start with this SOP on the narrow gauge so that by the time the standard gauge gets in here, it will just ride on an existing functional system.
The expectation is high, as investors are already counting the benefits, especially as it relates to enhancing operation efficiency and cost reduction.
What we agreed now is 2 trains a day. I mean, it's just to set off the operations. We intend to scale up to as much as 4 trains in the nearest future.
The Nigerian Shippers Council brokered the deal based on its persistence that the cost of doing business in the shipping subsector could be reduced by 35%.
We also expect that in those areas where the delivery points, there may be investments, PPP basis, could be private people, they could have warehouses, they could have trailer parks.
With this initiative, it is the expectation of key players that the calmness and serene atmosphere Apapa was once known for will soon return. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NT News.
And that's it from here. Network News continues after the break.
All existing Glow customers now enjoy up to 20% more data. Dial *777# to choose a plan. Glow Unlimited.
This is just a cook with me today.
Last year, Quick Teller's ad campaign was fantastic. This year, we have to go bigger. Imagine, we open on me in my estate. Suddenly we hear, it's my ride. Just because I pay my bills on time using Quick Teller, they never stop my ride.
Okay, wait. You see this slick car in front of a global mall. If fine babe gets out of the car, guess who? I shop from stores in the US and UK, and I always get what I want on Quick Teller Global Mall.
I have an even better idea. We see me and my boy driving. Yeah. And then I see some kids. What are you guys doing?
No fees, no school.
No fees, no school? You know what? You go to school. And then you go to school. And I'm paying for your school fees on Quick Teller.
Great ideas. Don't worry about the cost. Everything is possible with Quick Teller.
And then it takes all the credit.
Just like last year.
Quick Teller. Everyday payments made easy.
Period pain may stop you at the worst time. Don't let period pain hold you back from being your best. Panadol Extra, effective relief from period pain.
We understand that it's not just about buying a dress. Being able to pay your bills.
The ticket isn't showing cartoon.
But I just paid for it.
Promise.
I promise.
Making that quick stop at the shop. or sending some money home for the holidays.
We just received the money right now.
You're welcome, Mom. I told you I would send it.
It's about the 90,000 businesses across 13 countries in Africa who trust us to keep their promises. It's knowing that anywhere, anytime, anyway, you can always pay. Flutterwave, simplifying payments for endless possibilities.
I will still stand. I will still stand on the day that I finally wear my colors of pride, when the most prolific stars rise to look adversaries in the eye, putting them in their place. When the Spanish Armada sets sail once again to take over the rough seas, the moment of excellent surprises, remarkable magic, unshakable dominance. Yes, I will still stand. When my passion melts away all the uncertainties, when I get reacquainted with my heroes, I will still stand. Get ready for the return of live sports only on GoTV. Stay connected or reconnect to GoTV, and we will give you an upgrade to the next package. GoTV. Live it, love it.
In Nigeria, there is one sound we need to silence. So let's silence toothache before it starts with Oral-B All-Round Protection. Its advanced technology helps prevent both tooth holes and gum problems that can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your teeth, giving them all-round protection. Because the only sound we really want to hear is that of our future. For healthier, stronger teeth in 1 week.
Thank you for staying with us. Nigeria will begin exporting locally processed rice to some African countries by next year. Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Mohammed Sabo Nanono, stated this in Kaduna at the flag-off of distribution of agricultural inputs to farmers amidst coronavirus pandemic. Ahmed Umar Kudan reports.
Before the Buhari administration in 2015, many Nigerians were doubtful of the capacity of the country to feed herself. This narrative has since changed, with the country's domestic rice production capacity hitting 3.7 million metric tons annually, promoting self-sufficiency, economic growth, and job creation. Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Mohammed Sabo Nanono, says the distribution of the agricultural input to smallholder farmers aims at reducing the effect of COVID-19 on agricultural production in Nigeria.
Since the smallholders are the most vulnerable, it becomes imperative for government to support them with much needed input, especially seeds, which is the most important factor that influences farmers' yield in order to enable them recover quickly from the effect of pandemic.
Governor Nasura Ahmad El-Rufai says Kaduna State is committed to creating safer environment for farming.
The war against bandits and kidnappers continues unabated. We don't negotiate with bandits.
And unless we come to grips with mechanization, we will not be able to shoulder the challenges that the population of this country places on us.
Some of the input will be distributed free of charge to farmers, while others will be sold at subsidized rate. In Kaduna, Ahmad Umar Kudang, NT News.
The federal government is not resting on its laurels at ensuring that food sufficiency is achievable even as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to spread. This is done through the provision of agricultural inputs to farmers across the country. The ceremony was flagged off in Jigawa State as Eliasu Ali Yakubu completes his report.
With the commencement of the 2020 farming activities across the country in earnest, even in the mix of COVID-19, there is the hope that the 2020 farming season may experience a bumper harvest, going by the federal government's determined effort at ensuring food sufficiency in the country, with the commencement of distribution of fertilizers to farmers affected by floods across the country. Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, performed the flag-off ceremony in Dutse, Jigawa State.
We appreciate this government's gesture.
This fertilizer distribution, therefore, constitutes the final phase of the input distribution aimed at helping the farmers recover from losses suffered.
The sharing formula, as adopted by the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, shows that farmers that produce maize, rice, pepper, groundnut, and cowpea get 9 bags of the fertilizer each, while that of millet gets 5 bags. Guinea corn, 6 bags, and sesame seed, 4 bags in the northern parts of the country. The minister, who was accompanied by the Director General of NEMA, Air Vice Marshal Mohammed, also performed a similar exercise in Katsina State. From Duze in Jigawa State, Ilyasu Ali Yakubu, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari commiserates with the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Defense, Abius Zakari, on the death of his wife, Hajia Aisha Zakari. The president joins family members and associates in mourning the devoted wife whose contributions to improving and bringing joy to the lives of others will be sorely missed. Similarly, President Buhari condoles with family of Lady Janet Okoraji, a teacher and school preparatress who passed on at 83, leaving lasting memory of kindness, love and charity as a devout Christian. The president believes Lady Okoraji, whose son Samuel died in August 1989 while playing for the Super Eagles in a World Cup qualifier, will always be remembered for the sacrifices of the family for the nation. As a mother who lost her son in an unexpected situation, the president believes Lady Janet deserves to be acknowledged for her resilience and nobility despite the odds. President Buhari prayed God to grant his soul's eternal rest. Meanwhile, an assistant manager with the Nigerian Television Authority NTA Port Harcourt Network Center, Ogechi Paul, is dead, aged 56. He died at the University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital on Friday, the 29th of May, 2020. The family, in a statement signed by engineer Ihani Chukwu Paul, indicates that the interment takes place at Paul's compound, Omo Okonwa family, Obodo in Ikwere local government area, River State, between 9 and 10 a.m. on Thursday, the 11th of June 2020. Ogechi Paul joined the services of NTA in the year 2000 and served in NTA Port Harcourt, Yenagoa, Calabar, and NTA headquarters, Abuja. We'd like to thank you for watching NTA Network News tonight. My name is Kenan Ima Aburike. Have a good night.